Welcome to the world's #1 fitness business podcast for health club owners, gym managers, and fitness entrepreneurs. As always, this will be a great show as we have another expert to help your fitness business and your career. We'd like to thank our premier sponsor, Active Management, for supporting us, and we highly recommend becoming a member of Active Management to strengthen your business in 2016. There are loads of resources members receive, so join the Active Tribe today at www.activemgmt.com.au. Now that's enough from me. Let's welcome the show's amazing host, Chantal. What's on this week's show?
Harper, today's guest is actually not from the fitness industry, but she is a specialist in an area that I know will be of interest to all of our tribe, from club owners to managers and for our personal trainers. Today's guest is Lisa Maltman, who has recently launched a business called The Sleep Connection. With a professional background in corporate and sleep health, as well as her own personal experience, Lisa shares insights into the impact that sleep has on all aspects of our lives, our businesses, our teams, and our clients. But before we listen into that interview, let me first share some very exciting announcements and awards with you all. So first things first, we are incredibly proud that the Fitness Business Podcast is now reaching thousands of fitness industry professionals all across the world. And that success is thanks to the amazing guests that we feature on the show. So we thought it was only fitting to acknowledge the most outstanding performers each month, kind of like the Olympics of podcast downloads. So let's start with January 2016. Now, the bronze medal for shows downloaded goes to Jim Worthington, and that was show 34. The silver this month was taken out by the amazing Casey Conrad on show 31. And the gold medal performance for January was Michelle Seeger, show 33. Now, you got to hang on because there's a little bit more. We also have some guests who have hit over 500 downloads for their individual shows. And that is Steve Jensen, which was show 7, JT from Active Management back in show number 1, and Casey Conrad once again, show 31. So if you missed out on any of those shows, then all you need to do is head over to the website, which is www.fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, and take a listen. Trust me, I highly recommend that you check them out. Now, one last thing before we head into the interview is a reminder that this month we're giving you the chance to be part of the brand new Active Management Membership 2.0 that JT spoke about in last week's show. So to enter the draw, all you need to do is simply subscribe to the show notes on fitnessbusinesspodcast.com or engage with us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram during the month of February. The winners for that one are going to be announced next week in show 40, so get in quick. Okay, tribe, it is time to meet this week's special guest, Lisa Maltman. Okay, tribe, our special guest today is Lisa Maltman from The Sleep Connection. Now, Lisa established The Sleep Connection to meet the growing need to educate people on the importance of sleep health. Welcome to the show, Lisa.
Thank you, Chantal.
Do you want to give us a little bit of background about yourself?
Absolutely. So, and very recently I set up The Sleep Connection, as you mentioned, which I describe as sleep health, resilience and performance. Initially, I'm going into schools more as a preventative, so getting the sleep health message out there to the younger groups. So talking to the students, parents and teachers, and I'll go into that a little bit more at the end when we're going to talk about children in a tiny way. But previously, I worked in the area of corporate health, and what really sparked my interest was slightly prior to that when I worked for a company in relation to adult sleep apnea. And that was when I realised the effect on our health in a big way, health on also in like diabetes, heart disease. Obesity was a big one, which was very unknown, the effect on our weight, but also on mental health. So that sparked my interest. And then I did a session in relation to schools, and one of my girlfriends who's a teacher said, right, you need to start a business on that and get that message out there. So that's where I'm at now.
Well, that's actually where I want to start the show today, Lisa, because I think, you mentioned the importance of that sleep has on so many different parts of our lives. Let's explore some of those different things. What would you say as far as how important sleep is to, say, our productivity?
Sleep impacts all areas of our productivity. So it impacts our motivation, our energy, learning new things in particular, and of course our focus, and all these areas are key to productivity and performing at our best. So yeah, it's huge.
What about when it comes to creative thinking?
That's a really interesting question. Until recently, we've underestimated the impact of sleep on all parts of our brain, including the areas responsible for creativity. So there's probably two key parts to this question. One is the effect on creative thinking when we're actually asleep, when we're having good quality sleep. And the other is the effect after good quality sleep. So what's fascinating is that your brain is actually more active during some stages of sleep than when you're awake. So most people don't realise that. And so what's happening during a great night's sleep is that you're actually downloading and consolidating a lot of the information that you've learned that day. And it could even be exercise routines, information, anything. And then you're putting that into your long-term memory. And that gets affected if you're not sleeping properly. And also during sleep, there's an ongoing process in relation to our creativity and problem solving is actually occurring while we're asleep. Then on the other part is when we're awake after a good night's sleep, we're much more alert, more relaxed too, and motivated to be able to think more creatively. So it's both when you're asleep and when you're awake, it really affects our creativity and problem solving.
Very interesting. How about when it comes to relationships?
Oh, I love that one. That's a good one. So sleep deprivation has a huge impact on relationships, which is obviously important both personally and also in the work environment. Sleep affects our mood and really our general care factor and ability to feel emotions. So once again, going back to the brain, sleep deprivation affects parts of the brain responsible for our emotional processing and regulation of feelings. And this can mean often we'll focus on a more negative take on something and even misinterpret people's tone and facial expressions and, dare I say it, become more argumentative, which have a huge negative effect on relationships. So, it does have a big impact.
Now, this next one I know that a lot of our personal trainers that are listening will absolutely relate to, as they've probably gone through it with some of their clients. Talk to us about how important sleep is to our metabolism.
So this area is really important and information is coming out and growing all the time on this topic. Probably one of the best books I've seen on the topic, one that I've got right in front of me now, is called The Sleep Doctor's Diet Plan. Lose weight through better sleep. How good does that sound? By Michael Bruce, and Dr. Michael Bruce, he's from the US, and he's a clinical psychologist who's worked in the area of sleep and sleep disorders probably the last 15 years. And the forwards by Arianna Huffington, who had a big wake-up call in relation to sleep. Recent research has found that people who sleep less have a slower metabolic rate. So REM, which most people would know as rapid eye movement, is known as the sleep stage where metabolism is the highest. So if you get less sleep, one of the first areas affected is your REM sleep, and so therefore that affects your metabolism. This then sets the stage for eating the wrong foods, eating too much and eating at the wrong time of day and night. And then to add to this, at least 4 hormones that are affected by sleep influence weight gain. So as not all of your audience will have heard of these, I'll give you a little bit of a background. So ghrelin, leptin, cortisol, and growth hormone are all affected by sleep. So ghrelin is secreted by your stomach when it's empty, and it sends a message to your brain saying, I'm hungry, feed me. So that actually increases when you have sleep deprivation. So therefore it's saying, feed me, feed me. Leptin is the hormone which is secreted by fat cells, and it sends a message to the brain saying, stop eating. And what happens with this is that sleep deprivation decreases it, so there's nothing telling you to stop eating. Research shows that it's normally about less than 6.5 hours that those two get affected from a negative perspective. The cortisol, when you're sleep deprived, actually increases your appetite and decreases your immune function, which is another important area, is your immune function. And growth hormone, sleep deprivation reduces your growth hormone, so you actually store more glucose as fat. So I can highly recommend the Sleep Doctor's Diet Plan book because it really explains a lot of this in more depth, so particularly for some of your personal trainers to be able to translate that a bit better.
We will definitely put a link in the show notes to that book, Lisa. So I guess it goes without saying that, sleep is incredibly important when it comes to our members and our clients within our fitness businesses.
Absolutely. And going into I've got a great diagram which I'll also send you. It's a very descriptive diagram of how, in relation to sleep and sports performance, I guess that affects all areas of fitness, but how a good night's sleep can improve your athletic attributes is what it's called. And it covers 7 key attributes which are relevant to all areas of the fitness industry and that are affected by sleep. So I'll list these off, but there are 2 that are key. So it affects your motivation, it affects your stamina, your reaction time to different things, weight control, decision-making, accuracy and recovery. So it'll be better when you see it as a picture, but all of these are really important, in particular motivation and stamina. So the quality of your night's sleep can really influence your physical and mental energies the next day, levels the next day. And actually research shows that the perceived level of physical exertion during exercise actually increases when you're sleep deprived. So in other words, you think you're pushing yourself really hard, but in fact, when you're sleep deprived, you're not really pushing yourself to your maximum potential. So
now, was there any segments that we missed that sleep is particularly important?
Actually, Chantel, I'm really glad you asked that question, because this is one of my passionate areas. I think one of the areas that is most important is the effect of sleep on resilience and mental health, and that's such a huge area and growing area. So basically, sleep helps foster both mental and emotional resilience. Once again, it goes back to how sleep deprivation affects certain parts of the brain. So where chronic sleep deprivation occurs, this sets the stage for negative thinking and depression, anxiety, and particularly emotional vulnerability. And I can certainly vouch for that. When I had a bout of chronic insomnia a few years ago, it really changed my outlook. But in many cases, this is a lot bigger area for people with depression and anxiety. So with sleep and anxiety, I was talking to a sleep psychologist the other day, and just the vicious circle. So anxiety causes lack of sleep, and then sleep causes anxiety, and it just becomes a very vicious circle in that area. And I guess too, where sleep was once seen as a sign or an output of depression, it's now much more seen as a two-way relationship.
I'm sure that a number of our listeners can relate to this. I know that when I first started in the fitness industry, which was sort of 8+ years ago, at the time when I was training clients, we didn't hear so much about depression and anxiety and all of the things that you've just brought up. Whereas in the last couple of years, I think the cases of that have just increased so significantly that in a personal training environment, you're quite often meeting clients, dealing with clients that are going through those type of issues within their lifestyle. So needless to say, this is incredibly important for us to have a greater understanding of it.
Yeah, and it's about encouraging them to find answers seeing the relationship, encouraging them to find answers for both those areas and seeing how they interrelate, particularly the area of anxiety. As we live in a very 24/7 society and people aren't switching off, then that really impacts the levels of anxiety and then that whole sleep anxiety cycle.
Okay, Lisa, so tell me this, how do I know if I'm getting enough sleep? And I guess the other question is, how much do I actually need?
The big question. Okay, so in relation to how do you know if you're getting enough sleep, a very simplistic answer is if you're waking up in the morning without an alarm clock and feeling refreshed within 30 minutes of waking and not feeling tired until about an hour of bed before bedtime. And then I say minus the 2 to 3 p.m. dreaded afternoon hump, which I'll get into a bit later. But basically sleep deprivation creeps up, and often we're unaware of the negative outcomes attributed to sleep, so you don't always know if you're getting enough. So that's why I say waking up without an alarm clock and feeling good for the rest of the day. For many of us, sleep debt, we've actually forgotten what being really truly rested feels like. I guess I'll go off on a slight tangent here, but the most concerning part is many people are, at least 30 people, really tired and not aware of how sleep deprived they are, and this can have both small and huge impacts. And just on a personal story, I actually came across 2 car accidents, one not so long ago where people fell asleep at the wheel, and in one we had to call the family of the driver, and it would have been a really different story if this guy hadn't hit a $20,000 airbag in the barricade as opposed to oncoming traffic. So sometimes people have just lived with a lack of sleep for so long they're not aware of what it feels like to be great. They don't realise that that's not normal. So probably about a third of adults are sleep deprived, getting less than 7 hours a night. So going on to how much we do need, adults need between 7 to 10 hours of sleep per night. And I've got another great picture which I'll send through to you, and it's just talking about the 3 different types of sleepers. It's called the sleepless elite because it talks about short sleepers, which I'm sure everyone's heard of. I'll go into that in a moment. Normal sleepers and wannabe short sleepers.
Tribe, I'm going to jump in here quickly because the next part of my chat with Lisa was interrupted by a technical issue. So I'm going to tell you what each of those categories mean, and then I'll hand you back to Lisa. Now, she mentioned short sleepers. Now, this is 1 to 3% of the population, and people often think that they should be sleeping less, maybe say around 4 to 6 hours, and getting more done. But really, it's only a tiny percent of the population that are capable of doing that and still functioning normally. She also mentioned normal sleepers. Now, most adults have normal sleep needs, functioning best with 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And last of all is the wannabe short sleeper. They want to get away with less sleep but end up being impacted in all the ways that Lisa's mentioned throughout the show. Now, back to Lisa. So, Lisa, tell me this. Is it possible, with all of that in mind, is it possible that if we've got, say, underperforming staff within our team, that it could be related to sleep deprivation?
Yeah, 100%. That's definitely an area to start looking into if certain businesses haven't been looking into that area.
Okay. Are there any particular signs that you'd recommend we look out for?
Ooh, okay. Probably the signs of not getting enough sleep include most of the areas we've discussed. So the lower mood, motivation, energy, lack of focus and learning. But since all these can be caused by a number of things, then I would suggest a positive focus on sleep health, which includes like a survey and sleep diary is required, because obviously mood and focus could be the work environment, other things happening outside their lives besides sleep. So it's about identifying it as being a sleep issue. Do you know what I mean? So I would start, we can go into this in a bit more detail, just how, we can fix the situation or help the situation is I would start with an educated, positive culture from the top, as opposed to that attitude of, less sleep is a badge of honour and just education of staff. The survey will uncover, it will help. If you've got a positive attitude towards it, then a survey will uncover if it's sleep related. If there's a negative attitude towards sleep, no, you don't need it, and, do more shifts, whatever it might be, it's got to be a very transparent and encouraging environment for that survey to really uncover the whole effect on sleep.
So, Lisa, as a former personal trainer myself, I'm now sort of thinking back and kind of realising that maybe some of my clients might have struggled with their results as a lack of sleep. Is that right?
Definitely, and I think the two areas that are affected are metabolism and then those 7 areas related to performance that we discussed earlier, and in particular motivation and stamina. So definitely.
So when it comes to our fitness businesses, how could we actually help our members sleep better, would you suggest?
I think the whole thing is creating a culture that understands the benefits of sleep on all aspects of our life and encouraging and supporting that. So I mentioned before that, sleep is, less sleep is a badge of honour, all that sort of stuff. It's getting rid of that sort of attitude, and I'll sleep when I'm dead, which may come sooner or later, as indicated by that car accident before. But sleep is one of the key areas of health, together with fitness and nutrition, and starting to focus on that in equal measure is the first step. So understanding how each one affects the other is essential. So, how exercise, if you had a good exercise will affect your sleep better, and sleep affects exercise. It's understanding how they all interplay with each other. And I think sleep actually affects the outcome of the other two more than vice versa, yet it's actually possibly the easiest for people to make changes in. So I think it's a matter of creating a culture, just providing education for both from top down, education in all sorts of ways, and ongoing articles and newsletters, all that sort of thing, and then doing a survey within the whole organisation, or personally if it's the members, and the sleep diary. So I do one that goes for 2 weeks, and it looks at, I'll flip open my book now, my workbook. So it just looks at, what did you do 30 minutes before you go to sleep? Because it might be that people are up playing on their technology, and some people aren't aware of the effect of technology on sleep. So technology is probably if I look at the issue is with teenagers, and then I start talking to other people and they say it's the same for them. But using technology close to bedtime can have a huge impact on your sleep. So for some people they sleep perfectly and it doesn't make a difference, although it can affect the quality a little bit, which they're unaware of. But for others, just it wires their brain with whatever they're doing, but also the effect of the blue light from technology on your sleepy hormone melatonin. So melatonin is the hormone that, starts coming around the time that you're going to go to sleep. And if you're using technology, then the blue light actually wakes you up. It chases the melatonin away and says, oh, it's daytime. So it really affects your ability to get to sleep. So back to the sleep diary, I say, what are you doing 30 minutes before you go to sleep? Working out what time you go to bed, wake up. How do you feel in the morning? Who woke you in the morning? Did you wake yourself, or did you need an alarm clock? So it's just a sleep diary that goes for 2 weeks, and it starts to give a good indication of your sleep patterns and what might be causing you to get the sleep that you should be getting. So that's one area, so the sleep diary, and then looking at what causes less sleep and what would motivate people to change. So would it be the mood outputs, their performance outputs that they're wanting? So you've got to have a motivation of why you would change your sleep patterns.
I think they sound like some really good things for us to think about, implementing within our businesses or looking at for our members or our clients. Now, Lisa, I know that you're passionate about around helping kids sleep, and you mentioned it earlier. We would have a lot of listeners that either have children's programs within their gyms or their facilities. They might work one-on-one with kids, or, of course, they might have kids themselves. So tell us a little bit more about that area. What are the current statistics around kids' sleep patterns or lack of sleep patterns?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's becoming a huge area, and in fact with teenagers it's starting to become considered a public health epidemic, but the statistics are that 30% of primary school age children and 70% of teenagers are sleep deprived. So the cause and the outcomes are similar to adults, affecting their focus and their learning and mental and physical health. I guess probably the most concerning effect that I see is on mental health and also behaviour. So we talked before about depression, anxiety, but even in terms of behaviour, research is revealing that 25% of children with ADHD, they've actually been misdiagnosed and sleep deprived, perhaps from enlarged tonsils or sleep apnea. And when you talk to parents who have a testimony in this area, it's really quite emotional. It's huge when you see what some families are dealing with. So in terms of tips approaching children, they're similar to, what we might talk about a little bit later about adults, but really just talking to children about sleep, how they feel when they don't have enough sleep versus a good night's sleep. And then it really comes down to education and prioritising sleep. So know how much sleep your child needs and have a bedtime to aim for. So a lot of people don't even know how many hours sleep their child needs. So if they know that, which is, on my website and other key websites, and then I'll be a party pooper, and no matter what age they are, they just have no electronics an hour before bed or left in the room overnight. When you see articles about teenagers who are 30% of them are saying they're receiving text, not just late at night, but during the night, the impact that's having on their sleep cycles and their sleep, and then the output from that is huge.
You have a great video on your website which relates specifically to that when you mention the sleep apnea and the effect that it has on kids. And I really encourage anyone that's interested in this area specifically, I really encourage you to jump on to Lisa's website and have a look at that video, because it pretty much is a great summary of exactly what you just said. Amazing the effect that it can have. Okay, Lisa, to finish off, let's have a look at why people might actually be sleep deprived, and then perhaps you can share with us, say, your top 10 tips for how to overcome that.
Yeah, great question, because we need to look at why we're sleep deprived. So combined with a busy lifestyle and drive to be socially connected means sleep has become undervalued and low priority. It is starting to turn around, and I don't think it's just because I'm in this area. We're just hearing a lot more about sleep. So sleep deprivation probably comes under two areas. It comes from our habits. It comes for psychological reasons like stress, and physical and biological reasons. So a couple of habits, for example, it might be just complete lack of awareness of the amount of sleep you need and, poor time management, but also the electronic devices that I was mentioning before, use of stimulants, so caffeine, energy drinks, alcohol, and then looking at the psychological areas, stress caused by pressures, family, work, anxiety and depression, as I mentioned before, leading to that vicious cycle. Fear of missing out. Now, that's a big one. I thought it was just for teenagers, but then I've talked to other people and no, the social pressure, the fear of missing out. And the other one, there's a few more on my website, but the other one probably is electronic device addiction. When we look at the third area, so I've covered habits, psychological, and then the third area of physical and biological. Some is the physical sleep environment, changes in your circadian rhythm for different reasons. Sometimes it's a sleep disorder, but it might be jet lag, or for teenagers, their body clock actually changes. And then lastly, under that area, sleep disorders, so insomnia, sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, those sort of things. So those are probably the key reasons that we're not sleeping as much as we should.
Okay. Do you have some tips for us on how we can overcome some of those?
Some of those areas? Yes. Well, first of all, looking at why. So if it's a sleep disorder, then going and getting some help for that, because the rest of these are more sleep tips. Mm-hmm. So I guess the first one, we get to know how much sleep you need, you and your children or family need, and actually have a sleep time to aim for. So I read an article the other day on sleep procrastination, which is, people get up the next morning and go, tomorrow night I'm really going to go to bed on time. So don't fall into that trap. Create a regular sleep-wake routine. Your body clock is quite sensitive, so even on the weekends, try not to change it dramatically. Clear your mind by setting aside thinking and planning time prior to winding down. This is because who may have a tendency for insomnia. And keep a pen and paper beside your bed to write down anything that pops up in your mind. Have a 1 hour break between the use of electronic devices and sleep. And as I mentioned before, keep your bedroom electronic device-free zone. Good luck with that one. Use an alarm that is not your phone. Expose yourself to bright light in the morning and dim light in the evening. So light has the greatest effect on your sleep pattern. So even in the morning, if you're not feeling that great about getting out of bed, then get light as soon as you can, and that will actually, your cortisol levels will start rising and your melatonin will start disappearing purely from having light coming into your eyes, and that just helps you get wound up for the morning, and the dim light in the evening helps you wind down. Choose healthy food and drink. That's a huge one. Caffeine and alcohol have a huge effect on sleep. Most people know that with caffeine and energy drinks, but you may think that you sleep well with alcohol. I'll be a party pooper here and say it does reduce your quality of refreshing sleep. So you might think you're sleeping, but your quality sleep, your deep sleep is reduced, and then it can create contribute to that hangover feeling and ability to get stuff done the next day, and then you go, I might have another drink the next night. So it becomes a bit of a cycle. Exercise daily, but not too close to bedtime. This was one that I had to really learn, was exercise not too close to bedtime. If sleep's not affected, then that's not too big an issue, but exercise raises cortisol and body temperature, which are both the opposite of what you need to sleep. So I found when I had insomnia, I'd be running through the suburbs and my GP was going, I've seen you running, that is not going to help you sleep. For me, I felt that exercise was going to reduce my stress, which it does, but you just got to do it at the right time of the day. So I was busted by my GP. Having a relaxing pre-bedtime routine, so just wind down in the best way that you know how, rather than doing things right up until the time that you go to sleep.
Great tips. Thank you, Lisa. There are plenty of suggestions we can take away from those tips and the information that you've given us throughout the show. So I want to take the opportunity to just say a huge thank you, Lisa, for joining us on the show today. And also to remind everyone that we'll have the links to Lisa's website along with those resources that she's mentioned. And you can find all of that at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com.
The Fitness Business Podcast is very appreciative of our podcast partners. Here's a quick word from one of our partners.
As you know, our goal at the Fitness Business Podcast is to help you grow your fitness business. So I love it when I can tell you about new products, programs, and solutions to help you do just that. Our show would not be possible without the support of our sponsors. And one of those awesome sponsors is Visual Fitness Planner. But before I tell you more about them, let me ask you these questions. What is your membership closing percentages? What percentage of your members at the point of sale sign up for a complimentary orientation session? What percentage of your new members actually show up for their complimentary orientation session? And most importantly, what percentage of your membership buys personal training? These are the numbers that you have to be asking yourself and measuring every single day. As the old saying goes, if you're not measuring your numbers, you're not managing your numbers. A club's set show close numbers are significantly improved because of the Visual Fitness Planner. The VFP provides a turnkey system for marketing, capturing, and integrating new members into a healthy lifestyle change. The VFP automates your existing sales, marketing, and orientation systems with the power of its visually impacting technology. VFP calculates a person's health risks for diseases, it predicts their health age, it creates a before and after 3D image of their body, and calculates how long it will take to achieve their goals. And in this process, increases your membership and personal training sales and overall member retention. To check out more about the VFP, head over to their website at myvfp.com.au. And of course, a copy of that website link is in today's show notes. Tribe, it's my absolute pleasure to be welcoming a new regular guest to the show. I'd like to say a very warm welcome to Liesl Claby. Welcome to the show, Liesl.
Thank you. Very thrilled to be here.
Now, Liesl is actually the new people expert for active management. And as I said, she's going to be a new regular guest appearing on the Fitness Business Podcast each month. Now, I've got the quick fire 5 for you today, Liesl, so we can get to know you a little bit better. But before we head into those questions, do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Certainly. So I've been working in the fitness industry for close on 14 years now, teaching in a number of clubs, all manner of classes, children, adults, seniors, pre-choreographed and freestyle as well, and also working in a management capacity in clubs, largely being known for leadership and building tribes. So I'm currently the group exercise coordinator at Virgin Active, fairly fresh in that job and enjoying the challenge of building up new member and staff tribes there. I also present at Filex. I write the Australian Fitness Network magazine on a regular basis, and I'm a pro trainer for the Australian Fitness Network as well. So quite a few fingers in a few pies.
Absolutely. And having worked with you before, Lisa, in a group fitness environment, I can testify that definitely leading and building your tribe is your area of expertise. And we're really going to tap into that area of expertise throughout the series over the next couple of months with you. But to get us started today, I thought we would just hit you up with a quick fire five, just so we can, delve into a little bit more about what you do and why you do what you do. So let's get cracking straight into it. My first question for you is this: why is it that you do what you do?
Okay, I love that question. My number one reason for doing what I do is to empower people. I really want to, passionate about helping people be the best version of themselves and achieving a better quality of life and just being really happy with who they are as well. So I suppose helping people to feel strong and to have a healthy self-respect is the main reason why I do what I do.
I love that. Okay, and what would you say has been the best advice that you've ever received?
The best advice that I received was before I began my career in fitness. I had a whole career in film in another life, almost as much time spent in film as fitness. And one of the things that was said to me in marketing a film as a producer when you're coming up with it is don't try and be everything to everyone. And it carries through for me in fitness as well, because I think people need to have a really clear idea of their demographic and who they're selling to and who their market is and who their club is providing for. And I think if you can clarify that, it's a very easy sell because you're giving them something they already want.
That's a great piece of advice. Lisa, tell us this. What's maybe a personal habit that you've found has helped you become better at what you do?
I think maybe a personal quality rather than habit, but it's never giving up. It's being persistent, committed, dedicated, and just believing in yourself and pushing forward with what you believe in and not allowing people to knock you down along the way. Just refusing to give up. If you feel you're on the right track with something and something is really worth doing, just, hanging in there and staying with it. Great
suggestion. Now, do you have a particular book that you'd recommend and tell us why you'd recommend it?
I do, and this is going to hit you from left field. This is my favourite book of all time, and the first time I read it, I bought it for everyone that I loved for Christmas. It's called Like Water for Chocolate by Laura Esquivel. And the gist of the book is if you put your heart and soul and passion into something, then it comes through. So in this particular book, she's cooking food, and when she cooks it with love, the people who eat it feel that love in the food. And when she's upset and cries and the tears go into the chocolate or the dessert she's making, people feel that sadness. So I guess for me, it's that quality of doing whatever you do with love and coming from the right place.
Oh, that's lovely. I'm going to have to get that book, I think.
Yeah, get it. It's so worth it.
Sounds like a good one. Okay, Lisa, and one last question. What have you got for us next time you appear on the show?
Together, we're going to start to learn all the tips of building your own tribe of fitness warriors in your club. It's a hugely powerful retention tool, both for staff and for members.
That sounds awesome. Lisa, I'm really thrilled to have you as a regular guest on the show. I can't wait for you to share your experience and your passion with all of our tribe. So thank you so much for your very first little contribution to the Fitness Business Podcast.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure. Look forward to speaking again next time.
We will. Thanks, Lisa.
It's time for the Fitness Business Podcast Wrap.
Here are some of my favourite takeaways from today's chat with Lisa Maltman from The Sleep Connection. She said, in business, it is essential to create a culture that understands the benefit of sleep in all aspects of our lives. She said to consider implementing a sleep survey or diary for our members, our clients, or our staff to better understand individual sleep patterns and their effect on their performance. And last but not least, when we're training clients, keep in mind the perceived level of physical exertion during exercise actually increases when you are sleep deprived. And that's when one of those sleep surveys or diaries might come in handy. Now, before I say goodbye for this week, don't forget our February giveaway. We are giving you the chance to be part of the new Active Management Membership 2.0. You remember to enter the draw. All you need to do is subscribe to the show notes on fitnessbusinesspodcast.com or hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram during the month of February. And I'm going to be announcing the winners for that in next week's show. That is show 40. Also next week, we have our best of show. That is the best guests, the hottest segments, and the top tips from the last 20 shows. It is going to be huge. So make sure that you tune in next week to hear the very best of the best. Thanks for joining me once again for another week of the Fitness Business Podcast. And remember, what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.
Great show this week that you should be suffering DOMs, delayed onset mind soreness, as you are overloaded and that's when your mind is strengthened. You and your business have been strengthened thanks to the amazing support of our premier sponsor, Active Management. Check out www.activemgmt.com.au only if you want to strengthen your business and your leadership. Don't forget all today's links and notes are found at www.fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, where you can also subscribe and never miss a show and maybe win a prize. Next week is another incredible guest with Chantal, so get ready for more Fit Bizpiration.